Magandang gabi, Pilipinas! Narito po tayo ngayon sa AFP Theater sa Camp General Emilio Aguinaldo sa Quezon City para ihatid sa inyo maya-maya lamang ang napapanahong kaganapan na pinamumunuan ng selected students from different colleges and universities for the first ever Philippine Collegiate Peace Debates competition. Ako po si Carla Lizardo. Ang PCPD na ito ang first debate tournament in the country that will focus on national peace and security issues with the overall objective of developing Filipino patriotism and awareness amongst the youth. And for this competition, we have 20 debate teams na sumali na dumaan na sa elimination rounds in the previous days, and tonight we will be witnessing the final round of the competition. Ang first Philippine Collegiate Peace Debates competition is a joint project po ng Office of the Deputy Chief of Staff for Civil Military Operations, J7 Armed Forces of the Philippines, and the De La Salle Debate Society na inihahatid naman sa inyo ng Telebisyon ng Bayan, ang PTV4. And with that, we now turn you over to center stage for the first ever Philippine Collegiate Peace Debates competition.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first Philippine Collegiate Peace Debates. Tonight, we are delighted to gather almost 80 participants from over 20 schools to join us in this event. In the course of the last 2 days, we have witnessed the best speakers in the country and heard the most inspiring speeches from the youth.
Indeed, everyone deserves a congratulations. To formally start tonight's ceremony with some welcome remarks, we would like to call on stage the Deputy Chief of Staff for Civil Military Operations. Let us give a warm round of applause to Brigadier General Lysander A. Suerte.
With these debates, we aim to listen to the voice of the youth. We want to know what the youth think about these issues, and hopefully with their voices heard, our youth will be more ready for their future leadership roles in our society. We want our youth to take an enlightened role in our national aspiration for peace. We hope these debates will bring our youth to a higher level of awareness on peace and security issues and take us all closer to peace and progress. We thank and congratulate all the 19 teams for their outstanding participation. On behalf of the Chief of Staff, Armed Forces of the Philippines, on behalf of your armed forces, welcome to Camp Aguinaldo. Welcome to our peace debates. Tandaan natin, lahat ay peaceable. Magandang gabi sa inyo lahat.
Thank you very much for that warm welcome, Brigadier General Suerte. At this point, some of you may be wondering how this tournament was conceived and why peace has been the overarching theme of the event.
To give us an overview of the project that gave birth to this tournament, I am very honored to present to you the former Deputy Chief of Staff for Civil Military Operations, Rear Admiral Miguel Jose S. Rodriguez of the Armed Forces of the Philippines.
Ang tagubilin ng ating armed forces sa kanilang pamumuno ay iisa lamang. It is a time to end armed struggle. And what is ending armed struggle? That is the road towards peace. Pero ito po ay dapat hindi lamang sa armed forces manggagaling. Kaya aming napagtanto-tanto na kailangang pag-usapan natin itong salitang ito, itong salita ng kapayapaan, sapagkat ito ang nasa looban ng ating IPSP bayanihan. This is the end all and be all of what we call bayanihan. And so, napag-uusapan nilang ito, sabi namin nung inuumpisa nito, abay, ang dami na nating pinag-uusapan, pakinggan naman natin ang kabataan. And because of that idea, this caused the birth of this big and very laudable project. And if I may read, the Philippine Collegiate Peace Debates was conceptualized when the Armed Forces of the Philippines approached the De La Salle Debate Society to discuss a workable project related to the promotion of peace, patriotism, and unity, using competitive debating as its platform. This communication was coursed through Colonel Jerry Sambudio, the father of LSDS Executive Vice President and Executive Director of this Collegiate Peace Debates, si Ira Gail Samudio. Why am I saying this? Because it has already turned full circle. As you know before, Ira Gail Samudio used to be known as the daughter of Colonel Samudio. Now Colonel Samudio is known as the father of Ira Gail Samudio. And this is actually the reason why we are. It is symbolic that we are turning over the peace debates to the youth of the land, the people who will be showing us and will be telling us what peace to their minds is all about. Let's listen to them. This is a night of understanding, a night of opening up.
Thank you very much, Rear Admiral Rodriguez.
May we call on stage the director of the PCPD tournament, Ms. Ira Gail Zamudio.
We at the La Salle Debate Society and the Armed Forces of the Philippines believe that you, the youth, are part and parcel of this peace that we are trying to create in our country. I know this is a cliche, and you've heard this 1,000 times, but it's true. You are the future of this country.
Thank you very much, Ms. Zamudio.
And now, to give us a short message, we have the Assistant Secretary of the Office of the Presidential Advisor for the Peace Process, Ms. Jennifer Oreta.
How do we really imagine a peaceful society? How do we manifest our love for country in the age of Facebook and Twitter? How do we forge unity in the midst of social, political, and economic divides that confront us? I believe I don't need to make a case on how important these issues are. The event that is happening in Zamboanga now underscores the need to mainstream peace issues and collectively imagine solutions. The armed conflicts that have been with us for decades, maybe as old as your parents, and definitely long before your parents have even imagined having you. These armed hostilities have been pulling us down, preventing us from taking off economically. We are and have perennially been in the take-off stage since the post-1986 EDSA uprising. We need to put a period to this social political malady. And a major step to do this is to collectively work together to find solutions. We don't need lofty ideas actually in defining patriotism. In my view, patriotism is one's commitment to do something good for the betterment of his or her fellow citizens. It is the decision to do what is right, even if one has to challenge the majority's position. It is the personal promise to oneself to learn and discern about issues. And it is the willingness to declare one's position on issues, no matter what the consequences to oneself. This, for me, is what patriotism is. Translating one's personal conversion to institutional reform is the next step. But it's not enough to change oneself. Structural or institutional changes also need to take place in order to ensure that one's personal sacrifice truly contribute to society's betterment. And this is where unity comes in. Together, these values, peace, patriotism, unity, will create the path to development that we all long for.
Thank you very much, Ms. Oreta. And now, to give us a short message, we have the Vice Dean of the College of Law of De La Salle University, Attorney Jocelyn Cruz.
Kanina habang pinapakinggan ko kayo, bigla na lang lumitaw sa aking isipan ang katotohanan na sa gitna ng auditorium na ito ay napakatahimik. Tanging boses ko lang ang naririnig. Pero hindi yan ang katotohanan na nangyayari sa Zamboanga ngayon. Nabibigay sila sa putukan at ang takot ay nasa kanilang puso. At ano po ang pinapanalangin nila? Sana magkaroon ng kapayapaan. To our distinguished officers and guests, and to the rest of who took time to witness this event, where our youth are actually binding themselves together, indulging in an intellectual activity and discourse, that could trigger each one of us to advocate for peace so that it will reign in our country. There are a lot of you today wherein they are not actually exposed to the real situations of the world. And now, lucky are those students who are actually given the chance to actually expose themselves to these situations that will later on they'll be facing with. I don't exactly know how Colonel Samodia would be feeling seeing her daughter talk that way, organize this activity, and came up with an activity that will help the youth understand the real situations of our country. Exactly that is what this activity wanted to do. They wanted to listen to the youth because the youth is capable of coming with great and creative, innovative ideas. Ngayon po dapat sila nagsasalita. Sapagkat kung nagsasalita na ngayon, nagdedebate na sila ngayon, pinag-aaralan na nila ang isyu ng bayan, pagdating ng panahon na sila isang liderato na sila ang mamumuno ng ating bansa, alam na nila ang kanilang sasabihin, alam na nila ang problema ng ating bayan, at alam nila na may magagawa sila ngayon. So excited to see these students actually talk. Alam niyo po, pag nakita niyo sila ngayong gabi, sasabihin niyo, they're fantastic. And youth is actually capable of changing our world. At kayang-kaya po nilang baguhin ang sitwasyon ng Pilipinas. Lahat po na pinagsisikapan natin ngayon ay mawawalan ng saysay kung walang kapayapaan. And that is why exactly, even De La Salle University would not even think twice accepting this kind of undertaking in partnership with the Philippine Armed Forces. Bakit po? Because they exactly know that these are actually platform that could move the youth to do something for our country. We're then very proud of this partnership and thank you very much for trusting De La Salle University. Nagpapasalamat din po kami sapagkat katulad po ng De La Salle University, specifically the College of Law, we wanted to come up with lawyers who will truly be bringing of peace in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, sana po mas marami pa po tayong kabataan na aalamin nila na ang kapayapaan ang tangi natin pong minimiti na makamit sapagkat ang pag-unlad ng bansa ay nakasalalay sa katahimikan ng ating bansang Pilipinas.
To give her short remarks and to formally declare the final round open, we would like to welcome on stage De La Salle University's Dean of Student Affairs, Ms. Fritzy De Vera.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sure everyone is very excited to hear the two teams competing for the championship round. So on behalf of the administration of De La Salle University, I formally declare the final round of the first Philippine Collegiate Peace Debates open.
Thank you very much, Dean De Vera. At this point, it is time to put the spotlight on our 6 grand finalists.
First up, we have Xavier University, composed of team members of Lee Arvin Gogo, Renegan Candeza, and Giano Libot.
And to rival Xavier University, we have the University of the Philippines, Diliman, composed of Jose Escalante, Jesus Falsis, and Weston Lee.
now that we've met our contestants, let us meet the people who will be deciding their fates tonight. We have a panel of 9 adjudicators. And first we have Mr. Vincent Huico, Chief of Staff of the Philippine Charity Sweepstakes Office Chairperson.
Next, we have Mr. John Derek Porcilincula. He's the Officer-in-Chief of the Chief of Staff. He's also the Office of the General Manager, Philippine Charity Sweepstakes Office. Mr. Porcilincula is representing PCSO General Manager, Attorney Jose Ferdinand M. Rojas II.
Next, we have Mr. Leilangit, Vice President Station Manager of DWIZ, Chairman of Kapisanan ng mga Broadcasters ng Pilipinas, Metro Manila, host of Kasangga Mo Ang Langit, Biyaheng Langit, TV shows of PTTV4.
Next, we have Mr. Robin Pettiford, lawyer and television reporter, founder of the NGO Peace Tech Incorporated. He's a Canadian, Englishman, and a friend of the Filipinos.
Next, we have Mr. Clea Donga as General Manager, People's Television Network, PTV4.
Next, we have Attorney Francisco A. Rivera. He's a banker and corporate lawyer. And Attorney Rivera is representing Rotary International District 3780 Governor Francis Rivera.
We have Ernie A. Alcanzare, Lead Organizer, Yes for Peace, Bayanihan para sa Kapayapaan, Kaunlaran at Kasaganahan.
Next, we have Mr. Robin Jason Cebolino. He is the head coach of De La Salle Debate Society, and he is also the chair of the Board of Judges.
Next, we have Brigadier General Rolando G. Junco, Armed Forces of the Philippines Commander, Civil Relations Service of the Armed Forces of the Philippines.
We would like to remind everyone that in this tournament, contestants are arbitrarily assigned their positions in the debate rounds. The speeches of the finalists tonight in no way reflect their personal stand and views on the motion given.
At this point, we would like to invite the Chief Adjudicator, Mr. Robin Cebolino, to come on stage and to give the mechanics and motion of tonight's debate round.
Basically, we are going to use the Asians parliamentary format. As you can see, we have 2 sides here in this debate. 2 sides and 6 debaters. You will hear 6 7-minute speeches from the debaters and 2 4-minute speeches from the speeches in this debate from the speakers. They're basically going to be given to you by the constructive speakers. It's a bit of a technical thing, to be honest. We're not using a conventional type of a debate format here. We're going to use a parliamentary type of format. You're going to learn more about it as the debate transpires. One last thing, there are also POIs here. There are 15-second interjections which you can give during the speeches of during the 7-minute speeches. Okay, so one last thing though, I'm going to speak of something which is pretty much conventional about how debates happen. When you agree with what the speaker says, you just say hear, hear. That's how it goes usually. When you disagree, you say shame, basically. Don't worry, it's okay to say that. Debaters are pretty used to it. So, having said that, let's start with the debate. Can we have the motion, please? Okay, the grand finals motion is this House believes that in order to weaken the insurgent recruitment of the youth in the armed struggle, this House believes that the military should be allowed to use propaganda in schools. So, let's start now.
To the Filipino, children make us happy. They give us peace. Imagine that child holding a gun. As a nation that believes that we should never let our children suffer the consequences of the mistakes of their ancestors, is commiserating how we allow violent dissident groups like the NPA to casually approach our children, take advantage of their volatile emotions, and encourage them to rise up against the government. This is worse than child labor. We're not just talking about daddy giving baby or junior a toy gun, seeing them, oh, look at him, so cute, going bang bang. We're talking about children being brainwashed by their uncles and brothers to believe that our government deserves to be burned to the ground, teaching them that their lives are worth throwing away for somebody else's cause. This is how the NPA grew from a mere number of 40 in 1969 to 17,000 in the Marcos era and 25,000 when Cory sat in. And they could get away with this simply because of the free and unbridled propaganda of the NPA. It's called mass work. They organize covert recruitment efforts by taking what is happening on the ground and blaming it all on the government's stifling vengeance and creating violence. And when the time comes that a soldier goes to the battlefield, meets a 12-year-old boy armed with not only a rifle but hatred in his eyes, you and I both know that it's all too late. This is why Xavier University believes that it's time to take a more preventive stance in protecting our youth. We believe that our military should be allowed to undergo counter-education programs in order to tap into the consciousness of our energetic youth. We have to show them that where our government stands in this crisis and what they're doing. We need to show them that we're not just randomly killing people just because they dissent from us, but because we're doing this for their protection and for the nation's security. We need to educate them that no matter what the insurgents believe in, how they achieve their efforts are completely undemocratic and is against everything that the democracy stands for. And most importantly, we need to make them realize, sit down, that their lives are never worth sacrificing for somebody else's cause. Of course, our propaganda is not just through words, it's also through activities, or allowing these children to be able to participate in these propaganda activities. Like, for example, these peace debates. Our policy will basically do three things. First, we will protect these children against the root of the recruitment. We will allow this program to foster awareness of the AFP and make them aware of the concerns, and we will give them a voice and allow them to use that voice for the greater good.
Point of information.
Yes.
Do you support the idea of children of rebel groups, like an NPA rebel having a children going to school?
Obviously, Mr. Chair, we do. But we think that there's an important role for the military to go out there and tell that child that what the rebels are doing, going through violence to make themselves heard, is a bad thing. Our proposal is inspired by the counter-education program of President Fidel Ramos, called the Lambat Bitag Education Program, where he effectively reduced the number of youth militants to 9,000 in schools during his time. The only reason why this program was stopped in the past was because FBR thought that the NPA would see this as a gesture of diplomacy and finally stop. They didn't. So I think we should bring it back. First, we think it's practical to target schools because we know that the NPA is interested with the educated youth. This is because these groups are interested in people who are capable of spreading the word for them. Schools are also the institution where students enter with the mindset that they are ready to absorb information. As much as the DOH or the DepEd can spread information drives to promote values, we think that the military should be able to do the same. You see, our policy aims to target the problem of recruitment at its heart. And we're talking about the heart of every single child who is compelled to make a decision to be able to join the NPA ranks. You see, the child is virtually left with no choice because of the overwhelming pressure and information they get from the NPA, some of them even from the moral ascendancy of family. With our model, we allow these children to question these causes in the household, making undecided parents to even think otherwise, that violence probably is not the resort, Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen, for them to be able to have them heard. But even if the children cannot persuade their family, at least we save the child by telling them that when the worst comes, they have somebody else to run to, and that is the government, the military, that they don't have to be forced to fight because there is a way out of that situation. Secondly, we think that our military should be allowed to do this simply because we have to evolve our strategies in the same way that these insurgents are doing. We know that they are using our children against us, and we can't let them get away with that. This is why even the AFP has designed a roadmap that is now called the Internal Peace and Security Program, or the IPSP. This is reflective of the AFP's realization that the problem of insurgency cannot be solved by force alone, but by the collective effort of a civil society. That's why, after decades of impenetrable insurgency in Lantad, Caraga, one of the strongholds of the NPA, we were finally able to win the hearts and minds of the people of that region by using local scholars and NGOs to give them their needs. Contrary to the NPA's beliefs, the Philippine Army is not their enemy. When we tap our school youth, we are one step closer to achieving that peace program that is civilly relevant as it is militarily. Because through military propaganda, we are not making our students feel like they are left out of the equation. We make them feel relevant and part of the peace process. Because when you talk about the youth, there's no getting them out of the equation. They have so much energy and desire to be involved that we cannot protect them by simply ignoring them and putting them out of the situation. Naturally, if you have an active military propaganda, you elicit a response from these people. These people will be able to channel their idealisms to the voice of their own, blocking out any kind of influences that the NPA might give them. These children have so many idealisms that many grown-ups have already forgotten. Let's put these idealisms in the think tanks of our military rather than the think tanks of the NPA. That's why it's important to earn these children's trust. Because right now, every time somebody creates propaganda against the military, all they can do is deny. And then they can't even prove that some of this isn't true. And even if they have corrected some of these problems, the thing is, the youth will still not believe them because there's no proof. With the creation of this active propaganda, you get to prove to these people that a lot of the accusations are not true or have been resolved. This means that the youth will have no more reason to take up arms and even join the NPA in the first place. So instead of putting up posters of wanted terrorists in public, we think that the AFP should strive to win over the youth so that their faces won't end up in those posters. Not just for our sake, but for theirs as well. These are our children, not the NPAs. Let's keep it that way.
We would like to thank the Prime Minister. Let's call the Leader of the Opposition.
The University of the Philippines believes that recruiting children is immoral, and we also denounce the recruitment of youths to become future rebels and insurgents. But we believe that lahat ay posible except military propagandas, because it is not necessary and it is not effective to be able to stop recruiters from getting our children to participate and join the ranks of the NPA and the MILF and the MNLF at that. The only thing that was exclusively argued by the Prime Minister was that there is no sufficient information right now for the children or the youth to be able to counter or resist the ideas that are planted by recruiters in terms of the viability of an armed struggle. This is not true. All of our schools already emphasize the democratic and peaceful means to reform the system. Our schools already emphasize how society and minorities should interact and peaceably discuss their conflicts and problems with each other. So it's not really true that children are led to believe that Muslims, for example, are inherently violent, or that, for example, the democratic system is inherently anti-poor, which the NPAs and the MILF do exploit. So we do not need the military propaganda to be able to resist the influence of recruiters in getting our children to participate in their ranks. The problem with the affirmative side is that they fail to analyze the root causes of insurgency and why recruiting happens in the first place. We say that the causes of insurgency is really dissatisfaction with status quo. This is on two levels in terms of the poor economic conditions in certain areas such as the Compostela Valley and Mindanao area, and the inability of the people on the ground to have the means to change the system. That is why they resort to an armed struggle, because they believe that they cannot resort to a peaceful struggle. So that is why he was correct when he said that during martial law, the highest number of rebels were around 26,000 for the NPA and 40,000 for the MNLF/MILF. And this is according to AFP Chief General Emmanuel Bautista when he was interviewed about the number of rebels. But fast forward it to 2013, where you had the EDSA revolution and the implementation of education systems and social justice and improvement of welfare of different regions. The number of NPA rebels, for example, has gone down to a mere 4,000 rebels, and the MNLF or the MILF, this is still a lot, but it has gone down to a mere 10,000 and 15,000 rebels. So this means that in a span of 20 to 30 years, our educational system and our means of reform and improving the economic conditions on the ground, not yet, has already been effective in stopping the tide of recruitment of NPA rebels and MILF rebels at that. So it's not necessary for a military propaganda to happen. We also believe that, for example, in Bulacan, which used to be a rebel-infested area, is now not a rebel-infested area. You hardly can find any NPA rebel in Bulacan compared to Compostela region and Maguindanao. only the poorest regions in the Philippines are rebel-infested. There is a clear correlation. So for example, in Maguindanao or in Mindanao, the 10 poorest provinces have the highest number of rebels. What does this mean? This means that to be able to stop recruitment of our children into the ranks of rebels, we do not need military propaganda. What we need is to divert the resources they will use to create a military propaganda into economic reforms and to the reforms of the government. Because in their side, there is a trade-off of resources. Government resources are scarce. We have limited budget. In their side, they have to conceptualize a curriculum. They have to pay experts to make this military propaganda. Not yet. They have to hire experts and teachers to be able to teach this military propaganda. And they have to create very good videos, which was shown a while ago, to be able to have this military propaganda. We say that it is immoral in negative side for any peso to be spent in military propaganda when you could have used those money to be spent in economic programs that will uplift the welfare of individuals in Compostela Valley and the Maguindanao region. So we believe that it's not necessary and it's actually immoral in their side. Before I move on, yes.
Can propaganda work if the military does not show evidence that it is reformed and it is friendlier right now?
The military is already showing evidence right now that it is doing well, but not through a military propaganda, which demonizes the rebels that you are talking about. And this is what I'll talk about on the second argument. The propaganda in their side will not be effective, because for any military